Morning, good morning, good morning. How are we all today, folks? Hope you're doing well. Um, we're gonna have a fun little session today. I was just thinking before we started the stream what I want to do. Obviously, in the title, we're talking about GitHub CLI extensions, so I've got some ideas that I want to talk through. Um, I also want to talk about the work we did last week and some of the challenges we had with the kind of theme switching on the app that I was building. I want to talk you through how I solved those. And then just a load of other things as well. I've got like 3 or 4 different things I want to try and go through today. Probably won't get through them all, I'm going to be honest. So I'm just going to say that very early on. But there's lots that we can kind of go and code and build and do today. So yeah, that's kind of the theme today is just we're going to go and do stuff. So yeah, please join. Join in the chat as you always do, folks. And let me know what you're working on. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Let me know what's going on, because this is exactly what this stream is for. Rubber Duck Thursdays is just these kind of relaxed vibes whilst doing some vibe coding. I thought of that this morning. Thought it was kind of good, but hey, I'm not the best with... I'm not the best with puns. I do kind of like a good pun. So anyway, what are we going to do today, folks? We just talked about that. We're going to go through a few different projects and go from there. We'll do what we normally do to start off with. We'll kick off with the GitHub Changelog, see what's kind of happened since the last week, which I guess would be the 17th of April is the kind of date we're going from. Probably fewer updates than last week, because I know last week we went a little bit long on updates, but that's just because there was so much. There was so much announced last week, and wants to make sure we obviously stay up to date and keep you all in the know on what's going on. So yeah, that's kind of the plan. There we go. So gonna jump in the chat a sec here. So eagerly waiting. You need wait no more. We are live. Thank you for joining, Kingsley. I appreciate you being here with us. And absolutely, Cyril. Quack quack. Another Rubber Duck Thursday. We are here. And something that made me smile actually this morning as I was going live. I always kind of do my pre-stream checks, make sure we're all good to go and everything. And we've now got. I'm just going to double check. I'm pretty sure it was 4 different streams that we've got today of Rubber Duck Thursdays. So if you're interested, on the YouTube channel, we kind of show, what streams are coming up, what's scheduled live. In fact, let me bring up my screen here, and you can see that. Bear with me whilst I just switch things over. One moment. Okie doke. Right. So share the screen. There we go. So yeah, when you kind of look at the GitHub YouTube channel, you can see obviously in this live tab all the things that have been live in the past. But when you look at this section right now, obviously you can see what's coming up, the things we got scheduled as well. And it just made me smile. We've got 4 different Rubber Duck Thursday streams going on today. So we've got this one with myself at 10:30 BST. We then have one in Brazilian Portuguese later with Pachi at 4:30. Later then at least 7 p.m. my time. Obviously, I'm not going to try to do the time zone maths for everyone. But we have Kadesha joining us today for building with agent mode. So that's going to be good. We're going to be doing a lot of agent mode stuff here as well. And then I believe Andrea then will be taking us at 8:30 with Weathers to Quack. So there we go. I love the translation of that and that Quack Thursdays, I guess, Rubber Duck Thursdays. There we go. So yeah, it was really nice to kind of see that we got so many of these different streams, and all with this similar vibe of just hanging out, whether it's kind of working on some open source stuff, whether it's doing some live coding. It's just that kind of developer vibe there. So that's what we're doing. So Kingsley, you are working on explainable artificial intelligence and totally want to then GitHub to your journey to achieve your dream. So you're interested in Learning more about artificial intelligence, I guess, is kind of what I take away from that. Got it. Well, hopefully we can help. We'll be doing some work with GitHub Copilot today, of course. We'll be using that to kind of help us with our coding and everything. So yeah, hopefully that helps. And jump in if you got any questions along the way as well. So folks, keep jumping in the chat. Would love to know where you're from, what you're kind of what you want to get from today. Is there any kind of questions you got on your mind? Is there any projects you've been working on and something you're stuck with and want to chat it out and rub a duck it with the community? Let us know. I can see Frozen Fusion, you're from Arizona. Wow, that must be early right now. What is the time zone difference in Arizona at the minute? Arizona is currently 7 hours behind me. That's very early. So either you're still up from yesterday or you're up very early. But either way, welcome. Thank you for for joining us. Appreciate you. Right, let's do our normal thing here. Let's jump into the changelog and go and take a look at what has happened since last week. Right, there we go. And I'm going to do my normal thing. I say normal since last week, is move across, hold on, let's go and experiment with a few different, there we go, we'll go for that one. So you can go and see everything full screen nicely. Good stuff. Right. What has happened over the last week? Again, a few kind of incremental updates, and some of these we may have talked about last week, but we'll just recap, just in case. Copilot commit message generation is now in public preview on GitHub Desktop. So if you are using GitHub Desktop and you either have Copilot free or you're a Copilot subscriber, you can enable it in Copilot and GitHub Desktop policy. So a nice quality of life update there. So let me know if you're trying that out. I am an avid user of commit message generations in Visual Studio Code. Just like how it reduces the need for me to kind of think through what was it in that change. So it helps me as that starting point, and then I can add on any of the context that I need to add, like why I made those changes, and it just helps build a nice kind of summary there. So that's good. Right, scheduled code spaces maintenance on April 21st and 22nd. Well, we are now the 24th of April, so all should be well there. So that is now in the past. Yeah, this was a cool update actually. Haven't tried it yet. In deep experiences, I've tried it a little bit. You can now share Copilot chat conversations from GitHub.com. Yeah, you can share them from GitHub.com. I don't know where I was going with that sentence. That's now in public preview. So if you were kind of doing some troubleshooting work with Copilot and you wanted to share it, showcasing some learning workflows, some kind of rubber ducking you did with Copilot as well, for example. There's some nice little thoughts in there. So you can now share those conversations on GitHub.com. Next up, MAI DS-R1. So this is a version of DeepSeek R1, which has been refined by Microsoft AI. So according to the changelog, handles complex queries more effectively, works across multiple languages, provides access to previously restricted information. So there's this new model available, which is kind of this refined version by Microsoft AI of DeepSeek R1. So again, we've talked about GitHub models in the past. GitHub models is like this playground where you can go and experiment with these different AI models and how you might use them in your own applications. So if you wanted to go and integrate it and build into your own apps, then good news, you can now go and try that with MAI DS-R1. So good, there we go. What else? Organization custom instructions are now available. So this feature, I believe, is for Copilot Enterprise customers. Yep, there we go. At the organization level, you can go in and you get this tab in your Copilot settings with, and in fact, let me zoom in a bit just to make sure that's really clear. There we go. This custom instructions tab on the organization settings onto Copilot. And it allows you then to go and set these kind of organizational preferences. I believe that just applies to .com there, but I might be, oh yeah, copilot.github.com. So yeah, so just be aware of that one. And of course, if you're trying to share those kind of repository good practices and things like that with Copilot, there's always Copilot custom instruction files as well that you can go and use. Right, what else? Performance improvements for the organizational feed. So if you're using the organizational feed, the team here at GitHub are doing some work to optimize those load times, reduce timeouts. So basically good quality of life improvements there. Primarily a back-end change, but there is going to be a slight change to the UI. And I think, it was basically around some of the information that is available on there. So go and take a look at that one. And something that came out recently-ish, I don't even remember the exact date now, but everything is a blur with time. But secret scanning alert dismissals. So you can basically now set up secret protection in a way that only certain individuals can dismiss the secret scanning alerts, and anyone else has to go and basically request that and say, hey, I'd like to dismiss this alert, please. It's a false positive, or actually, hey, we've remediated the secret, or hey, actually, this isn't such a big problem. So now you can go and manage those secret scanning alert dismissal requests with the with the REST API. So yeah, new ways of being able to go and integrate that there. Some continued updates and investments there with GitHub Copilot. So for Xcode, it adds the @workspace kind of shortcut command there. So that allows you to bring in that code base as context. And then it also brings in support for Claude 3.7 Sonnet and GPT 4.5 as well. So if you are an Xcode user, good news, some good updates there. So make sure you update the the version of the extension that you're using in Xcode. This was a really nice update to see, actually. I did spot this one the other day. The mobile team have done like a monthly roundup of all the things that they shipped, and multi-model selection is one of those things now available in Copilot chats in GitHub Mobile. Sub-issues are now available. You've got issue timelines. They now include sub-issues. Introduced the finding file feature on iOS. And there's just a lot of good kind of quality of life bug fixes. So the team are doing some great work over there. So again, if you're using the GitHub mobile app, which I'm a very big user of, actually. I've kind of been thinking sometimes when I'm starting my day having breakfast, like I'll be having a look at issues or pull requests or what notifications have come in, and I'll just be reviewing my pull requests from my phone. So checking like Dependabot PRs that come in, have all the checks passed? Great. Is everything looking green? Great. Is there any other checks that I need to go and do? No. Great. Let's just go and merge those in and get those going. So depending on what it is and what I need to go and review. So yeah, it's been nice having access to all of those things just on the phone. So yeah, that's been good. What else? Reminder for changes to NPM replication feed API. Yes, we talked about this one back. I can't remember when it was, maybe a month ago or so. So this is just a reminder that the new replication feed APIs are now live. The legacy feeds remain in place until May the 29th. There are some brownout periods scheduled. So the recommendation is to access the updated feed. So if you are using those, you'll probably know, and please go and take that action ahead of time to avoid any disruption. Dependabot now lets you schedule update frequencies with cron expressions. I need to try this out because I really like, this is a good quality of life improvement. I found that when I'm got my dependable update schedule. I think they happen like throughout Monday for me at the minute. So some pop up first thing in the morning, some pop up later in the afternoon, in the evening. Um, Whereas, if I could schedule all the things that I want to go and review at once and just allocate some time and go, right, let me work through that, that debt effectively and make sure I'm keeping up all of my package versions of things, then that is a great thing. So now you can go and schedule those updates with cron expressions. So good to see that. Maybe we'll get a chance to try that today because one of the things I might do is merge some of my dependable PRs that I need to go and work on as well. So we'll see how that goes. GitHub Actions workflow security analysis with CodeQL is now generally available. So if you're using CodeQL, so that is available for private or internal repositories on GitHub Advanced Security, but also GitHub code scanning, so that new kind of broken out SKU that we have. Because if you missed it a few weeks ago, there's now this kind of unbundled version. So you can buy GitHub Secret Protection, GitHub Secret Protection and GitHub Code Security. And the code security part is all to do with code scanning, and that includes CodeQL there. But for public repositories, you can go and use CodeQL as well. So if you're doing open source work, we can go and use that. So yeah, now you can go and scan GitHub Actions for that. So again, great to see that. Good. Next, updates to security configuration settings for customers in existing grace periods. Okay, something to do with team and enterprise customers, and let's see, configuration for new repos. Got it. So yeah, some configuration changes. If you're on team or enterprise and using some of the advanced security capabilities, maybe just take a look at that changelog there, is what I would say. GitHub Copilot Code Review now supports C, C++, Kotlin, Swift. Great to see that. Copilot Code Review now covers over 90% of the file types typically found in pull requests. Wow, that's pretty impressive. That's a really nice start. So more of your code benefits from intelligent insights. Cool. Improve the quality of suggestions. I've got to be fair, I enable it by default now on a number of my repositories. So you can do that by using repository rule sets. And then selecting Copilot's code review, as an automated reviewer on PRs. And it has caught things that I've missed. In even my own PRs. There are times, of course, where it kind of catches things like, oh, actually, that's not important, so we're going to close that kind of suggestion out. Because that's the thing with AI tools, right? Sometimes they make mistakes, sometimes they suggest things that you don't want, and it's okay to say, I'm good, I don't want that, thank you very much, let's move on. So it's there as a tool to help us. So good updates to Copilot code reviews. And then users can now choose whether merging linked pull requests automatically closes the issue. Yeah, this is an interesting one. Normally, when you do something in your commit message or your PR, what says something like fixes #1 or fixes #521 or whatever it is. When you close that PR, it will automatically close the issue for you. But there are some scenarios where maybe you don't want that. Maybe the issue, you need to go and do some manual validation work, some manual QA before you go and close the issue. Or maybe there's other things that need to be done. So for that reason, you don't want to go and close that out automatically. For those reasons, maybe you want that setting. So that is something which is now available under the repository settings, general issues, and it's enabled by default to preserve that existing behavior, so how things have always worked with that. And that is the changelog this week. So as I mentioned, it's a lot shorter this week than last week. There was a lot of announcements last week. So not as much for us to dig into today, so that's okay. It means we can go and move on with the fun stuff and go and get some coding. So let me go and see what is going on in the chat. I want to thank GitHub. Thank you, Kingsley. Appreciate that. Hello, Steve. Welcome. GitHub makes our life easier. Thank you. That is our aim. One paper cut at a time with that developer experience. Things like Copilot helping us stay in the flow. All of those things. It's intended to help make things easier. So thank you. Hi, Marco. Welcome. Excited to see what powerful tools you'll build next. Me too. Me too. Yeah, we've got some great teams here innovating all the time. So it's always great to see what's kind of the frontier and what's kind of coming up. Interesting. Building a model around celestial law and the solar system and its structure. Fascinating. That is a very, very unique project, King of the Sea. So yeah, thanks for sharing about that one. Okay. First time joining, Sean. Excited to join. Well, welcome. We are so glad to have you here. Thank you for joining, spending the time with us today. And yeah, we're going to be jumping into some code in a sec. Hello, Gugun. If we pronounced your name right and correctly. And hi, Karthik. Good. Okay, so let me see. What are we doing? Give me a moment. Okay. So first off, I figured I'd do a bit of show and tell back from last week. And let me bring up my screen here. There we go. Let me just rearrange myself there. Right. So last week, one of the things we were working on was this kind of visualization. So this was something that we started a few streams ago, something I studied back from when I did my MBA. I gave Copilot this diagram of something I made, I think it was in PowerPoint or something like that. I made the diagram and I was like, hey, I'd love to get an interactive version of this. So initially we had a version, it was kind of, it was fine, it was functional, but it was a bit ugly. Worked on a visual overhaul. And then last week I was like, hey, it would be awesome. If we could go and have different themes that we could control. Because we already had like a light theme, dark theme switcher based on the system. But I kind of want to have that separate to the system as well. And we're trying to go through that and we kept hitting some roadblocks last week. So I did a bit of work on that since then. And well, now it works. And if I go and just pull up my system settings here. There we go. And just bring it to another window. If I can get my mouse over there. Who else struggles with getting their... what is going on there, actually? It's funny. Oh, there we go. I got it. Right. So I've got a teleprompter over here. And there's, a screen kind of behind it. So when I'm talking with people on Zoom, I can kind of keep that eye contact with the camera. And sometimes things open there, so it's always fun. Anyway, right. Let me bring that back up. So that's on there. Maybe that there. And right, let me do this. So system setting, we're going to change the theme of my system setting to dark mode, light mode, back to auto. So you can see, obviously, that all works good. And then we've got the switcher here as well, dark and light, nice. And what was fun about last week is... I've said it so many times on this channel, and if on this stream in particular, and if you've been on the stream, you will know probably what I'm going to say is when you're working with these AI tools, context is so important. And the thing that I didn't bring into context, and that was my bad, was kind of thinking about the Tailwind CSS docs and how they recommend to go and actually implement what I wanted to do in the latest version of Tailwind CSS, because, models might not have that. There might be more examples of other ways to do that in the underlying LLMs as well. So I needed to just give that little bit of a nudge to say, hey, this is the way that we should probably go and do this. Let's go down this path. And that is effectively what I did. So I jumped onto the Tailwind CSS docs. Just going to go and find the right one. There we go. So I was looking through them, and I was like, okay, so we got the docs, and then I was like, right, we can toggle dark mode manually, or we can use it as a data attribute, and we can add the system theme support. So it's kind of a combination across all of those that I needed to incorporate. And my problem was I just wasn't clear enough on that at all in the prompts that I used last week. So it's a very real example of how you ask the question and what context you bring in is so important, because you're kind of going around in circles and not really getting anywhere. And so the end result was, after I kind of passed in some of that context from the docs in terms of, hey, this is the suggestions on how to go and implement this. This is what I'm trying to achieve. I want a button like this. I don't want to drop down, blah, 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 blah. I was able to iterate and get on to what you see on screen here now. And if I just zoom in a bit. And I am not a designer by any means, but I think this looks really nice. I'm just a big fan of how this is all looking right now. And then over the weekend, I just added a button to say, hey, if you want to go and view the source of that, you can go and then check that out over on GitHub. The repo is public, so anyone can go and take a look at that. Chris Reddington /trends-radar. And, that's kind of the app all built now. So managed to go from basically an image, quite literally an image, something I built in PowerPoint, do a screenshot of that, pass that into Copilot, get an initial version, iterate on the UI, make things a bit nicer based on how I wanted them to kind of look, and there we go, we're done. So I think that kind of wraps up that one. But I've got some ideas of like paper cuts that I want to go and work on with it, like maybe adding the points in certain locations and kind of tapping on the diagram. But for now, it's functional. It does exactly what I need and wasn't there before. So yeah, maybe hopefully that's useful to some people. So if it is, please go ahead and use it. So what to work on next? Well, there are a few things. So I've got a few different things that we could work on. Let me tell you all three, and then let me know which you would prefer to go, because we can do any of the three. I'm happy to do anyone, and we can switch between them as well. On the weekend, I had an idea, and the idea was basically the work that I do. So I work in GitHub's developer relations team, and a lot of the time we're thinking about like creating walkthroughs and labs for people to learn. We're creating sample codes to go and use for demos and things, maybe for live streams like this or conference talks, you name it. We're kind of creating all these different scenarios all the time. And so I was thinking, is there something we can do with Copilot to put that a little more on Rails? So to help us kind of create samples and say, right, this is the standard of how we create a sample for GitHub. If we're doing a walkthrough, it should follow this approach, it should do this, blah, 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 blah. So I've created a few prompt files, a few Copilot instructions and different things to try that. It's not done by any means. It's very much a work in progress, but it was kind of interesting playing with that. So I'm happy to show you that if that one's of interest. Something related that I was going to start today, possibly, or sometime in the future, was a new GitHub CLI extension. So to the point that I mentioned earlier, in our team, we often need to create demos. And so I was thinking, is there something we can do with the GitHub CLI where we can take a repository template, but in that repository template, maybe there's some kind of subfolder where it says, hey, we want these issues to be created when the repository is created, and those kind of things. Almost bootstrapping that kind of end-to-end repository setup, and making that almost like a kind of an in-a-box demo creation kit is something I was thinking about as well. And then the third one is just for some events coming up, I need to do some updates to, if you watch the GitHub Universe keynote of 2024, we had the Mona Airways app. I need to do some updates to that and just think through a few scenarios. So any of those three things, really, happy to walk through today and happy to kind of talk through. So let me know if any of those sounds particularly interesting and particularly something you want to walk through, and we can go and do that. So while I just wait for the responses to come in, let me have a look. From Ukraine, thank you, Volodya, and welcome. Thanks for joining. I do not speak German, I'm afraid. I've never actually been taught German. I learned Spanish, I learned French, not German. So I have not even going to try and pronounce that. But thanks, Ivan. Yes, Punjab. Can anyone tell me after completing this meeting where I will get full video because I joined a little late? We don't think of it as a meeting. We think of it as like a live stream, a very kind of casual vibe here where you can drop in, drop out as you like. You're very welcome. The videos themselves, I believe on demand, automatically go onto LinkedIn, but also to our YouTube channel as well. So youtube.com/GitHub, go to the channel name, the channel tab. At the top, there's like a live tab, and then in there you can see all of the past live streams there as well. So you'll be able to go and check that out. Good question, Jovan. Back to back to the point around my light mode, dark mode, and the issues I had. It wasn't system prompts that was the problem. It was the prompts I was passing in to Copilot. So in that kind of chat pane. So how I was instructing it to kind of complete the task and do what it needed to do. That was the problem. That was what broke. Well, not broke, sorry. That's unfair. But that was what I was going around in circles in. And didn't quite get right. So that was all on me. So yeah, took a look at that, fixed it, and worked perfectly when I passed in the right context. So again, need to listen to my own lessons. Hello from Paris. Hello, Shanaz. Thank you for joining us today. And is Copilot Pro worth it? I think so. And there'll be more details as well, because I guess we did like the pre-announcement. And there'll be... Hold on, I've got to remind myself of all this, of the different SKUs now. Let me see. But in a nutshell, what SKU are you using right now, actually, Mark? It's probably the question I'd start with. Yeah, because Pro gets you access to completions and an increased limit on things like the chat mode as well. And you get a certain number of premium requests. And that was something we announced because we've also got another SKU called Pro Plus. But yeah, Pro, personally, I think is worth it. I've loved agent mode since it's come out. Obviously work for the company, so I have my allegiance, etc. But it's been really useful for just kind of helping me stay in the flow, work on certain tasks, and kind of offload some things to the AI so that I can come back, review it, and go, actually, we want to go in this direction. So I'm almost steering now, and that's a tool and an assistant there to help me. So yeah, I've been a fan. Don't think I'd be able to do as much with agent mode as I have been doing on free. But Copilot Free is great as well for you to try out. So if you find you're using Copilot Free and you want to dig in a bit more, then Copilot Pro is a good next step there. So absolutely. Great web app. I'm not a traditional web dev. I usually do data science in Python. There's a lot of tools to do the job in the web development world. How do you recommend starting out and choosing the appropriate tools? Thanks. Oh, what a great question, Sean. By the way, just because I've shown web dev here doesn't mean that suddenly everyone has to go in the web dev direction. Like, doing data science in Python, etc., is amazing. I've done my fair share of ML courses. Played with Panda, NumPy, all of those kind of things as well. So it's a really great set of skills. I think there's not like a one right framework or a one right tool. Everyone's going to have their opinions. I know on my team there are people who have their opinions of which framework they prefer and why. So I don't want to get into that. What I'd say is, what is it you want to build? What is it you want to go and do? And kind of start off from there. So think of the scenario that you're trying to build out, and then kind of evaluate from there what are the right tools for the job. Because for some things, a pure static HTML, CSS, JavaScript site will be perfectly fine. Whereas if you want to go something more advanced and like a framework, maybe you'd look at React or like Next or Nuxt or Vue or something like that. And then just kind of compare what those experiences are and what the developer community as a whole has kind of thought about those different frameworks and how they use them. Because that's kind of then where you start learning they each have benefits, pros and cons, nuances, all of these things. And really just start with what is it you're trying to do? What's the job you're trying to get done? And building from there. Like, would I start every project with a framework? Probably not. I try to go minimum viable product, proof of concept it out, and then evolve things over time, which is even easier now with tools like Copilot, where you can build out that MVP and then go, okay, let's now rewrite this with this framework or this language or this thing. So it can help us do that as well. So not a direct answer, but I think start with like that scenario, that idea, and then try and build that out. That's personally how I learn best. So if anyone else has got other ideas, please shout. Hi Ashley, welcome. Greetings from Casablanca. Well, awesome. Well, welcome. Thank you for joining. Okay, you develop tools for GitHub Copilot. No, I don't actually. Hello, dear. So I'm on the developer relations team. So I do a lot of working with the developer community. So things like this, doing conferences, working at events, helping our team, run live streams like this, working with our open source programs team and how they work with many of the open source projects that kind of work with GitHub. Our education team, etc. as well. So doing a lot of our community work is kind of what I focus on. Can I explain how you can work with the GitHub community? Yeah, absolutely, Sarab. So really just, I guess it's such a broad question, but if you wanted to start chatting with other GitHub users and that kind of thing, there's actually, I should give a shout out to this team here. If you go to github.com /, github.com/community, you will see our GitHub organization there. And there's a repository underneath that called community as well. So you can see this is the community repository. And on here, there's a discussion forum where you can go and chat. So people, people go and post their questions. The community kind of collaborate on there. So if you want to go and take a look at that, I'll just pop it in the chat here. If I can find the chat, there we go. GitHub.com community. I'm just gonna post that. Oops, where have I gone? Let me do that. There we go. And so we're just posting that now. There we go. So yeah, take a look at that. But equally, if you're thinking about how you get involved in projects, or if you're thinking about how people get involved in your projects, there is a label on I'm pretty sure it's default on repositories, called Good First Issue. So you can take a look, search on GitHub for that label, Good First Issue, and that could be something that maybe you could get involved in and support a project. Likewise, I know open source projects are always looking for support, and that's not necessarily just code. They need people to help them triage issues, maintain, write docs, so many different things. So if it's something you're interested in, I'm sure there's definitely a project out there. Let's see. So it's more like crafting the right prompt. Exactly, Javan. Back to that point. That was what I didn't do. I didn't. I didn't put the right prompt in the right context, basically. Mark, you use Xcode to code and a variety of AI to help with coding issues, ChatGPT and Grok. Yeah, definitely try out, given you use Xcode, definitely try out GitHub Copilot and Xcode. It's had a lot of love. There's now chat, there's code completions. We mentioned earlier it's got the app workspace command there as well. So definitely worth trying that out. Olivier from France, welcome. Rayhad from Libya. Jose, sorry if I pronounced incorrectly, from Venezuela. Yeah, it's an interesting question about whether tools like this get in the way of learning. And personally, I don't think so. I think the whole vibe coding thing as a concept is interesting. But what I found is when you're really intentional about what you're passing in as your prompt, what it is you're trying to do, that in itself is a learning experience. And the scenario I always think of is the frustration of when I was building apps, maybe 10, 15 years ago, right? That I would have to read the docs, understand how the docs have kind of laid it out, then look at my implementation and do that kind of translation exercise of, this is what this says, this is how we're doing it, how do I go from A to B? And it never, ever translated directly, because you might be using like a different version of a package, which maybe doesn't have that method, or the method was refactored, or, any number of different things, right? The example does it one way, but there's another way to achieve it, and that's what we're doing. And I always found that I hit a lot of friction in my learning, personally. I don't know about other people, but that's what I felt. And I found, even since we had code completions with Copilot, then onto chat, and now what we've got with agent mode, I'm learning a lot more in the context of what I'm working on. And that's personally just how I learn really well. I'm a really visual person. So if I know that I'm building that trend radar app that we saw earlier, I'm thinking about my learning in, hey, I've got these Next.js components, I've got this kind of React hook, I've got this thing. And that's the way it cements for me, is when it's less abstract and when it's more concrete in terms of how I'm building something. So for me, I've actually found it's helped my learning. But everyone learns differently. So I think this is the thing, is reflecting on how it is that you learn and kind of using those tools in the way that it makes sense for you. So yeah, I've personally found it really helpful. Great, Joan. Building a personal site using Hugo. That's exactly how I've built my personal site. I use Hugo. I'm a big Hugo fan. I've used it for a while. But equally, I'm using some other products now as well for some of the other apps I'm building, like Next.js I just mentioned. I've used Vue a lot as well. So lots of great projects for you to get started with those kind of personal sites. I know a few of my colleagues have been talking about Astro a lot, actually. So yeah, lots of good projects that you can go and try out for that. Oh wow! Starting to play with Bind3.js, Scala.js, Copilot, Claude, Sonnet. Interesting. Awesome, Olivia. Well, yeah. And what is it actually that you're building with that? Like, what's kind of thing you're building? Interesting. Good. Okay. Well, lots of good discussion in there. Let's do some coding. Let's get to work. So, of those three that I said earlier, I didn't really see any kind of votes either way. We just had a great conversation instead. So, I tell you what I'm going to do. I am going to show you what I worked on the weekend. There we go. Cool. So, as I mentioned, when we as a team, we need to make a lot of kind of content, lab exercises, all of these kind of things. So I was thinking about, can I make almost like a meta repository that helps kind of bring that on Rails? So can we use agent mode to create that end-to-end like sample, that end-to-end lab exercise, all of those things? So what I've got is some Copilot instructions. Well, I'm just telling it its job is to create, good technical content, things like that. It can create code samples, it can create lab content, which is a walkthrough and a demo app. But in that process, it should kind of ask, right, is this a code sample? Is this a lab? If the requirements are unclear, make sure you clarify, consider the target audience and their skill level. When ready, create a private GitHub repository using MCP. I didn't quite get that one to work yet, just through some of the things that I was working on. And then ensure any instructions in the walkthroughs are repeatable, clear, etc. So I was thinking, how do we help Copilot like name the projects? So like, using things like Copilot, GitHub, or Octo. So, Octo library as an example was one that I was thinking about. Being clear, ensuring consistency. So I've got a load of kind of clear prompts and things in here. Similarly, when it's writing sample code, I've got some prompts in here to say, ensure that it's fully formed. When writing sample code, ensure the code is modular, should be a README file, a dev container, and then finally, kind of a walkthrough prompt then as well. So when we're actually structuring the walkthrough like a lab exercise, how should it split the exercises down into different files? How should the exercises be structured with like learning objectives and quick wins? How can we format that using good markdown, making sure we're accessible in terms of got alternate naming for images, clarity, not using jargon. So, lots and lots of good prompts in there. So I do have an example in the README. Here we go, of like creating a Dependabot walkthrough. But what I'm gonna do instead, let's do something live. Let's do create a GitHub Actions walkthrough. This should teach a user about basics of GitHub Actions, e.g. workflows, jobs, actions, how to reference secrets, your GitHub repo. Actually, let's not do that one. Let's do matrix jobs, reusable workflows. Let's do that. Right, we will do, exercises should on the foundations of GitHub Actions, matrix jobs and how they can aid in maintainability, e.g. not duplicating, keeping workflows dry. 3, reusable workflows to scale practices across a larger team. Right, what scenario should we do? Because we want an app that we want to deploy. let's do. Let's do similar to what we've got written here. The scenario should be not a library. An inventory for a car garage written in TypeScript, modern, return framework. We won't have a Go backend. We'll just leave it as that one for now. Okay, so that's kind of my initial prompt. And we can add additional prompts in as well. So you may have heard of these things called prompt files. There's those things that I showed you just a moment ago. So I'm going to go and type prompts and bring those in as context. So we can see those 3 items there. And of course, the Copilot instructions file will be brought in as well. So we're basically passing in all of the rules and all of the kind of the standards that we would go and expect. We'll use GPT-4.1 because why not? And let's go and try that out. Cool. So thank you for the request. To clarify, we're going to create a lab, a walkthrough, that's right, with exercises, not just a code sample. The walkthroughs will teach GitHub Actions fundamentals, yeah. So there's an inventory app for a car garage, yeah, that's right. The lab will include all of those things. That looks good. Is this correct? Would you like the walkthrough to focus on CI, CD, or both? And do you want the inventory app to be a minimal MVP? Yeah, that all looks good. The only thing I'm thinking is, do we want to include the GitHub Actions by default? I don't think so. So, yes, and Jovan, great question. Thank you for keeping me very honest here. Care to explain what dry is in terms of workflows? So dry, for anyone who's unfamiliar, don't repeat yourself. So one of those good concepts in programming is being modular, reusing our code as much as we can. And so in an app, maybe if I had a calculator, I might have a sum method, I might have a multiply method, I might have all of those kind of components that could be reused rather than defining them in multiple places, so they're building blocks. So when we think about like matrix jobs, for example, one of the things that I might want to do if I'm building like, I don't know, a binary, for example, that I'm distributing to my users, I might want to build and test it for Windows, for Mac OS, for Linux, the ARM variations, for the x86, whatever kind of combination of things that we want to go and do. But I might also want to go and try that out on one version of Node, another version of Node, another version of this dependency. And that's what matrix jobs allow you to do, is repeat that same workflow, but across those different combinations. So you're not manually creating the workflow file multiple times. GitHub takes those variables and kind of copy and pastes like a cookie cutter that combination out. So then you're not repeating your code, but you're able to build and test in a very thorough way across all of those different examples. So that's what I mean by dry in that instance. But the other example of dry could be with reusable workflows. So reusable workflows, the clue is in the name. If you've got like a common building block across loads of different teams in your organization, or even your own repositories, maybe you always want linting to happen after you've done blah, for example. And that's just a set of steps that you always follow. A reusable workflow, you can create that in like a shared repository across the organization, and then you can reference that from other GitHub Action workflows. So both of those then will help you in terms of that kind of dry principle of not repeating yourself. And so keeping the code nice and modular, and then reusing it in those different ways. And exactly, modularity, compatibility. That's it, you got it. So with that, let me go and take a look at this. So the walkthrough will teach GitHub Actions. Yes, that's yes. It's this line that I'm just a bit about. So Yep, that is mostly correct. You mentioned CD. We should probably talk about environments in GitHub as well. Yes, please make the app a minimal MVP, basic CRUD, no all. And please do not include the GitHub Actions workflow files by default. Instead, please include those as tasks for the user as part of the exercises. Okay, I think that is a good mix. So lab content plan, car carriage inventory app, Next.js, TypeScript, minimal CRUD, no auth. Developers need to get up actions, get action foundations. Yeah. Nice demo app. Instructions, all workflow file created by the user as part of the exercise, not included by default. Good. And then we'll have the dev container in there as well. So next, I'll scaffold. Oh, and we might have still streaming. There we go. Interesting that it's done it in this repo though. And this is where it's going back to the point I said earlier about the importance of the prompts and making sure they're kind of robust. I've had this sometimes, and I think it depends on which model that I've got selected. So I'm just going to undo that. Because one of the things I've got in the Copilot instructions file, the custom instructions file, I should say, is there we go. Creating a new Visual Studio Code workspace with the Git repo initialized. So let me just try with GPT-4o. Try the same thing again. Oh, but that was... Oh, no, sorry. I need to go back a previous prompt, and let's try that one. And I'm just going to copy my earlier one. Yeah, interesting. So it really doesn't want to create a new workspace this time around. Possibly because I've got too many instructions in there and it's kind of lost in all of the context that I'm providing. And this is why it's just been so interesting trying this as a bit of an experiment, because there's so many different things that I need to get across to kind of make that work. After you've clarified any open questions, you should create a new VS Code workspace. We'll go back to form 1. There we go. So asking some things there that it didn't before. Let's try that. Audience skill level is beginner. They have dev experience, but no experience with GitHub Actions. Framework preference. Next.js is fine because I've been using that a lot lately. Lab format. Do you want the walkthrough to include both the demo app and yes, both please. Code space and automation. Should I include a GitHub code space? Include the code space. No actions, please. The user must complete these as of the exercises. Okay. Here's the plan. Good. Fascinating. It is not wanting to do that. Oh, yeah. Interesting. Because what I had over the weekend is it would then go and create a new VS Code workspace for me. And then it would hand off all of the kind of instructions into that new workspace. And it was just a really, really good experience. But for whatever reason today, probably because I'm live streaming, it doesn't want to enable, but that is okay. But you can see, like, this was just one example of me thinking, how can I use Copilot to help me build some of the stuff that I'm building? And where these prompt files and these custom instructions can be really useful. So I'm gonna just stop that there. I'll just come out on that one. Okay, so we could look at the Go demo thing, but that'll be a lot more of this kind of stuff. So instead, let's jump across to. Let me just do this. There we go. Let me jump back in the chat actually as well and make sure I've answered everything. Right. So how do you handle security with MCP, and is Docker good enough to leverage? This is a really good question. In fact, let me keep it up on screen so anyone who joins knows what we're talking about. Like any dependency that you use in your project, you should know what is in it. You should be inspecting the code. You should be kind of inspecting those dependencies. So just like the packages that you would use in the app directly, you should be understanding and looking how the MCP servers are working and what they're doing. Because you're kind of sending that context from an agent to that MCP server, so it's an important consideration. So absolutely. So for example, the GitHub MCP server, the GitHub kind of took ownership of very recently. Anthropic previously made a reference sample, but now GitHub are kind of driving the development of that. That code is all public, so you can go and take a look at that. So you can see what's going on and how that code is running and working. So I think that answers the first part of the question. Is Docker good enough to leverage? There's different ways that you can go and run these things. Like when you look at VS Code, actually, we jump back over. When you set up your MCP file and your configuration, you can either use a command or an HTTP or server sent event. So that's kind of like the remote kind of implementation. Like I've got an endpoint I can connect to, that kind of way. The command route is how we're actually doing things here with Docker, but you could also do things with like an npm package or with a pip package or with a Docker, Docker image is what we talked about. You could run like a local executable. You could go and run, many different things. So I guess it really just depends on how the tool's built and what's possible. The thing I like about Docker is kind of the portability. Because if I had some kind of binary that I was trying to run, then that file path would be different depending on what machine I'm on. Whereas with Docker, it is just a case of Docker run go. And I should say, that executable thing, unless it's on the path of the machine, then it might be a bit more universal. So it's just thinking about what that dev experience looks like for people who might be using that project and would go and set up the MCP server as well, and how you make sure this transferable across different machines. When it's transferable, what I mean is, making sure that the configuration is easy, the setup is easy. So that's what I mean by that one. So that's the things that I would consider there. So hopefully that helps. Hello from India. And then we talked about what dry is good. When will the new features in GitHub Copilot be available to WebStorm? I don't know the answer, I'm afraid, Volodya. I'm not on the Copilot team and don't drive the roadmap, but I do know they're hard at work across the IDs. As you've seen, with Xcode, with Eclipse, I know there's been a lot of recent additions actually to the JetBrains JetBrains pieces. Yeah. It's like Copilot edits came out just last month, for example. So yeah, take a look at keep a look at the changelog is what I would say for that one. Do you need a dev container for that, Docker? I mean, no. So dev containers, the reason I got the dev container is for making it easier to set up a GitHub code space. That's why that was on there, Jovan. So it's not used as part of the MCP setup. It was used more to help with the development environment setup. And CI/CD doesn't need Docker, by the way, Kingsley. You can run these workflows on a GitHub hosted runner, and you could completely do that all without using Docker. You don't necessarily need to use it. But depending on what you have and how you kind of packaged up whatever processes and things that you run, maybe it's a dependency in some workflows, possibly. Right. Okay, cool. So let me jump back to this one then. I'm just going to go and merge some pieces here. And this is a nice command, by the way, dependabot rebase, if you're not familiar by yourself. Great question, Valodia. So my background was really interesting. I'm not sure I would put the tag of a front-end developer on myself, because I can hack away at code. I wouldn't say I'm like a designer or like a proper front-end developer. I originally started doing my development with PHP, and I made a lot of websites. So I'm probably closer to front-end dev, but I've always kind of focused more on like the back-end logic and how kind of the things work. And that's the things that kind of interest me. So I kind of focus wherever I need to. Like these days, I've been writing a lot of like Next.js and React, and Go have kind of been the languages that I've been using and things I've been focusing on. But yeah, with the community side, it's more about things like this, working with the community, helping people learn, helping people grow, helping people find projects that they can go and work on, connecting people with each other, talking at conferences, helping set up programs for people to learn, all of these kind of things. So technical, can do the hands-on coding. I'm happy to kind of jump in where I need to with like back-end, front-end. I've done a ton of like what we'd quote unquote call the DevOps side of things. So infrastructure as code. Got a large background in cloud and that kind of cloud architecture. Personally, that's kind of where I've came from. And yeah, which do I like more, Angular or React? Honestly, I haven't used that much Angular. So I can't really comment. Like my experience has been more React, just because of the nature of the types of projects I've worked on and kind of what existing decisions have been made and those kind of things. So I wouldn't say it's a preference. It's just kind of the way things have fell out for me. So yeah, that helps. Okay. Interesting. What is going on there? Can't rebase that one. I might have to come back to that one then. Merge. I'm going to try and rebase that one again. And by the way, if you all didn't know this command with Dependabot, so I'm assuming you all know Dependabot, the helpful assistant that helps you go and keep things up to date in terms of your packages and things that you're using. You can tag Dependabot and then you can go and rebase. But clearly I've changed something because it's not allowing me to go and do that. Let me go and lights and graph. I'm just going to go and rerun second for updates. This is a good little tip, by the way. If you didn't know, you can kind of manually trigger those. And I've got mine set up so that they run via GitHub Actions as well. That was something that came out recently, the last few months or so, I think. So yeah, this is a nice little thing in terms of visibility and whatnot. And then it should go back and then update all my pull requests as I need to. So yeah. Big fan of Dependable. Big fan of Dependable. But anyway, let me see. So VS Code, let's go look at the travel app. I'm unfamiliar with, and we'll go for the GPT 4.1. I'm unfamiliar with this project. Can you help me get it running, please? And we'll let that go in the background whilst we check in and see what's going on with Dependable. Okay. I'm going to carry on merging things. I'm assuming, it is just changing the, I was changing the package log. Huh. Interesting. I think we would need to rebase. And it's just created a few other things for us there. So yeah, just before I went live, I added a Dependable YAML file to this repository so we could basically just bump all of the version numbers so they're all current and all up to date before I start diving into any kind of deep development with anything on this one. That's always one of the things I try and do, is just make sure things are kind of current and up to date before we start working on things. So we'll go and do some patching here whilst we're chatting. You know what? Actually, I should drink some water. So I've been trying to be very good recently, and I've bought one of those water bottles where you get like all of the markings of like how much you've drunk, because I'm really bad at remembering how much I've drunk, what glass am I on, and all that. So it just helps me kind of keep track. But today I've been really bad. I haven't drunk any, so I need to go and do that. You got the same one. There we go. Love that. Love that. Love that. Okay, so yeah, let's just go and work through these. And I'm going to just rearrange things a sec. Make it easier for us to just switch between the browser and the VS Code instance. There we go. Exactly, hydrated is important. Is important. Right, there we go. Sorted. Keep going with these. Oh well, we got a lot more. And this is why I like staying on top of these kind of things, because you know, it's important, but it can feel a bit overwhelming when you have to go through an exercise like this and keep things patched. So keeping on top of this technical kind of debt and version updates and things is really important. Let's see, right, we just need to npm install, npm run dev, and then we'll be good to go. Okay. If you haven't tried it yet, by the way, could you do that for me, please? It's always kind of fun. Yeah, just run it. Obviously, that's a request call, so I could do that manually. But when you're doing things like tests, etc., it will come up with those things in line. You just got to go and run them. Oh, yep. So it hasn't quite finished the one. No worries. Huh. What is going on there? Interesting. Let's go and run that manually. Okay. Oh, it's compiling. Okay. There we go. So yeah, some of you might remember that from GitHub Universe. So yeah, gonna give it a bit of love, patch some of the dependencies that we got on there, and start adding some new features because I want to use this one for some other demos and things that I've got coming up. And so I want to go and extend the app a little bit. So that's kind of what I'm working on here. Yeah. We'll keep working. Oops. Keep working on that. Right. That's where I need to go. I need to go there. Right. Bump. Interesting. There was no dependable YAML entry for that one. I'm just going to close the PRs as it instructs. Anyone with the current dependable YAML. Okay. I'll do that for a few of these then. Oh, let's repaste that one. Good. Only 3 minutes ago, so let's do that. This one, I think I need to just do a bit of checking that nothing breaks. I'm going to come back to that one. Actually, maybe I'll tell you a bit about my workflow in a sec. So for things like this, where it's going across a major version, so 3.4.1.3 to 4.1.4. Of course, with Tailwind CSS, between those two versions, if you haven't used Tailwind, there were some, obviously because it's major change, there's some kind of breaking changes in there. And some of it, I think, is to do with how they've renamed some of the classes and things. So I'd probably need to just double check that all works. So what I would do personally is there's a dev container in this repo, and we use kind of the TypeScript version, blah, 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 blah. I would come into this pull request. And yes, that is 100% what I recommend for Mac. So it's not something that we've got on this one yet, but it's one of the things that I'm definitely going to be adding as part of the work that I do here. Is setting up tests so Dependabot runs them automatically, 100%. But the other thing that I do for something like this, which is more of a UI change, is I'll create a code space on that particular branch. And then I'll go and install the dependencies and check that everything still runs as expected. Because if it does, great, awesome, and do that kind of smoke test. And the beauty of having this as a code space is it sets up everything that I need. So, it installs the packages, the dependencies. I think it did anyway. Let me check the dev container. So it doesn't do it automatically. Oh, no, it does. Sorry, I am wrong. It'll npm install for us. So we can just go straight ahead and npm run dev when we get there. Yeah, Vivax, great point. So you're working on your own repo and have a full test setup locally. Have to create an action to run it. The thing you could try there is using GitHub Copilot to create the GitHub action workflow for you. So if you use Copilot chat and just say, hey, I want to create a GitHub action workflow for this. I want it to build, I want it to test, I want it to do this. You can bootstrap that for you pretty quickly with agent mode. So that's what I would try. And VS Code loading so long, I'd actually argue that wasn't very long. And the reason I say that is, this is a GitHub code space, so it's in the browser. And what's happening behind the scenes is it's spinning up a container with all the dependencies that we need to run TypeScript and everything, with installing all the packages and everything that we need as well for this particular app to go and run. And if you think about it, at least in my experience for dev teams I've worked on and other teams I've worked with, when you onboard to a new project or to a new company or whatever, that can easily take like hours or days, depending on what the environment is. So having something automated like this dev container just really helps speed that along. So, yes, it takes like a minute or so on stream, but actually compared to what it could take if I had to go and install TypeScript locally, if I had to go and install all those packages, if I had to go and dig for all the dependencies that we need, it's not actually really that bad. So just wanted to put that into context of what's going on. There we go. So you can see it's already installed because of how quick that was to run. If we run dev this time, boop, boop, boop. Let's open in the browser. Give it a moment. Probably compiling. Yep, still compiling. Let me see. Whilst we carry on with that, I'm going to go from top to bottom with these. Yeah, repaste that. Right. Thank you. I'll deal with the any issues that come up along the way then of kind of merging these in. Now we refresh. What is going? We got an error. So, in answer to that question, we can't just swap in that new version of Tailwind like I suspected. Now, if I remember rightly, I'm pretty sure there was some kind of migration script. We'll go and find that and bring that up. Yeah, here we go. So Tailwind CSS4, the upgrade guide, there's this command you can go and run. So let's go and run that. We'll stop that. Upgrade. Oop. Let me just do it like. Hold on. I'm trying to help you see. There we go. Yes, let's proceed with that. Right. So I need to upgrade on the old version. So I need to do it on another branch. Okay, fine. No problem. We'll close that code space down. So in its current form, we can't merge that yet. We need to go make some changes. So that's good. We can do that. That's rebased. Good. Pull request. So I can't do that one. I'm not going to merge that one. It's the patch version. So once we've done all of them but the Tailwind one, I'm going to create a branch and we'll try and do that upgrade. See how we get on. Two more, and then we can go and create a branch, and we'll try that upgrade. So nearly there, because I won't trigger any new dependency pack until then. Sorry, I won't trigger any dependabot runs, and then the new PRs to come in. Vivek, so you got test suite split up into unit tests, integration tests. Locally, you have a makefile style setup to run specific ones or just all. Want to be lazy, have an action to run all to target instead of having one job per section. But also, that feels dirty. My main concern is just having to keep them in sync. Like add new test kinds and then forget to create an action job for it. I mean, the other thing you could maybe consider is how can you reuse the efforts that you're doing locally? So you've got the makefile. Could you run the makefile in a GitHub action? You know, initially have it as one job. Yes, maybe a bit dirty. But then as you get, the thing that I always try to instill is it's all about progress. So having the action and the automated step is better than nothing. But then you'll probably find that because you've got all your integration tests and everything in the makefile, that'll be very slow. It won't be something you want to have on every single PR, probably, I suspect. I don't know. Obviously, that's a kind of a decision and a discussion and a thought you want to have. But figuring out what the right steps are to do at the right time, and then splitting those out maybe into different makefiles, or whatever that automation is, and then just using that in your GitHub action. And then that one makefile you have today could maybe just call and source all those other files, and that's how things run. So again, you know, different ways that you can kind of compose it and make it work. But the key thing is going to be, there we go. Okay, there's that one too. I think we'll close this last one, I imagine. But that's what I would say is, yeah, it was the last one. Fine. Or test in prod. Maybe not. Maybe not. You know, if you've got millions of users and if you've got, you know, a system which is like bringing in revenue and things like that, maybe don't test in prod. But there are some things, you know, where testing in prod may be okay. Even doing things like A/B testing and things like that. But you know, shipping untested features is probably not what we want to do, I would say. Maybe my controversial take, probably a lukewarm take, let's say. Right, let's upgrade Tailwind. And we are gonna create a code space. I could have used the existing code space that I've got, in fairness. The thing I like to do, though, again, personal, oops, in my browser just hung there. The thing I like to do is create a fresh code space, just so I can be sure that all of the packages and all the dependencies and everything we've got is this new branch. It's, you know, nothing hanging over from the previous kind of instance. So it's completely fresh environment. Again, it's just a bit of a workflow that I found that I use and that I just kind of like to keep following. So Let's see. Not sure about the question there, Jovan. Using Task Manager. What for? What for? I think I need a bit more context to that one. Let's zoom in a bit so you can all see. There we go. Right, so let's try again. But this time, we'll run the command again. There we go. Paste. Try and upgrade that this time. Yes, please. We would like to upgrade. Does anyone else do that when they sing? When they code, they like start singing or making noises. I definitely do that. Do not load the config file. Can't find module. Huh. Oh, what have we done? I clearly merged something that I shouldn't have merged. And now we have problems. So this is why you don't do what I was just doing and just kind of going merge. This is why you need tests. This is why you need actions and all these things. So this is kind of what I was saying, is you can get into these problems by not having some of those common foundations. And this is kind of the point of the stream, actually, was I wanted to kind of show what can happen if you go down a path where you just go, it'll be okay. Click. So yeah, I'm going to do some cleaning up off stream of all this stuff and getting things into the right kind of versions. Because yeah, we've got a combination of things that we just merged in that probably may not work anymore. But anyway, that's what I'm going to be working on, is that app, getting that all patched up to date and everything, and then adding new features to that with Copilot Agent Mode. So yeah, that's what we've kind of been doing today. And yeah, this is the point of us doing things live, because things don't always go as we expect with development, right? This is one of those examples where I'll probably go back to an earlier version or try and fix this first, and if not, go back to an earlier version, implement my actions first, which is normally the path I would go down. I kind of wanted to show this not doing that first off, have my builds and my tests and whatnot, and then go from there. So yeah, unconscious, we've been going for a little while now, over an hour and a half. So let's maybe think about wrapping up here. What is coming up? What is going on? Well, we talked about it earlier on. But here it is. We have got lots of events coming up. Lots and lots of events coming up. Obviously, you've been watching Rubber Duck Thursdays with me, Chris. Later, 4:30 my time, so that's in about 4.5 hours. We have Portuguese-Brazilian version, which I'm not going to try to pronounce at all. Then we have, Quinta do Patino, but I cannot say the rest. Rubber Duck Thursdays building with agent mode with Kadesha, and then we have Claire Vista Quack with Andrea later on. So we have a few more sessions of these live today, so if you want to go and join, please do join us. Otherwise, there is an Open Source Friday, a couple of them tomorrow, and of course we will be back again next week, maybe building a bit more of the Copilot Airways thing, I imagine, and maybe actually go back and doing the GitHub CLI stuff. It was funny, I named the stream that, and we ended up not really doing that today. That's okay. We keep these things very fluid. We keep these things very open based on what you all want to talk about. And web dev was one of those things that seemed to be a good theme today and a good trend. So good to see it. Glad to see it. So with that, folks, thanks for tuning in, as always. I will be back again 10:30 UK time next week. So please do join. Please do come along. And otherwise, please join the other folks later today, and we will see you once again next week. Have a good one. Happy coding. And until then, now, folks.